Guys, a lot of our fishing here recently has looked like this. The weather here has been a mix of hot and rainy, so it turns into a lot of driving around and Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today's video is actually going to be sponsored by Monster Bass. It's the first sponsored video I'm doing with Monster Bass, hoping for a long, beautiful partnership with Monster Bass, and hopefully can hook y'all up, teach y'all some things, learn y'all some things about bass fishing. I'm not an expert, don't claim to be an expert by any means, but I think that I'm slowly becoming a better angler. While I learn, I want to help y'all learn. So today's video, we are going to be using a premium tungsten jig from Monster Bass, and we're going to be pairing that up with a new Crazy Legs chigger crawl from Berkeley. Color's new, it's Alabama crawl. I'm gonna show y'all how I'd rig it, where I'd fish it around, and we'll get into the video. Ooh, these look juicy. I like that. This is my first time seeing those. What do you think?
Those look real good. I ain't gonna lie.
Juice?
I'm a little jealous.
Juice?
I'm gonna throw a jig with one of those.
Yeah, all you. I'm gonna give you the pack. All right, so I think I might switch it up a little bit. I might pull these little antennas off, or should I leave them on? What do you think? We'll let you make that decision. Leave them?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave them. It'll give it a little bit of extra flair. So guys, when you rig up a jig and a trailer, me personally, I like to use a crawl style trailer. You can use really anything. I've used like a little trick worm as a trailer before. Anything with a little tail, something with a little bit of flair, a little bit of funk, you can use as a trailer. So first thing you want to do is make sure your colors match. These colors aren't the most perfect matching in the world, but they're still in the same scheme. You know, I wouldn't use a black and blue crawl on a green pumpkin jig, or I wouldn't use a black and blue jig on a green pumpkin crawl, if you see what I'm saying. So first thing I normally do is I go up to the head of my weight. I just kind of measure it out and just see how it's gonna look. So with that, it looks pretty good, but I'm just gonna trim these first little part off of this crawl. Just use these to measure. I just say like, okay, I need to take off this first little section, and I use my teeth. They can get a little nasty sometimes. And what you'll do, I just thread my crawl all the way up to the top of my jig head. And most jig heads are gonna have a little keeper to help your bait stay on the back of the jig head right there. So just slide it all the way up there, and boom, you are ready to fish. See, these stick out a little bit farther than I want them to, so I might trim those down a little bit, because sometimes you'll see that like maybe a bluegill or something will kind of pick with these and pull these, but I guess we'll just try it out, see how it works for right now. We're gonna go ahead and tie it up, and I'll kind of talk to y'all on the GoPro about how I fish it and where I'm gonna fish it at. All right, guys, so when you're fishing a jig, number one thing that I want to do, I want to cast to as much structure, anything that looks different. Basically, I say that with anything I fish. Anything that looks different in the pond, any bit of structure in the pond, I want to cast to it, because 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a fish there, or you have a higher chance of catching a fish by structure.
We had some more. I think they definitely get on top.
Oh, there was one following. Did you see it?
I didn't see it.
There was one just followed it up. Oh, dang.
Was it bass?
Yeah. That was him again. Let's see if maybe we can't get him again on this jig. I have a feeling it might be a good one.
Dad.
Oh, there he goes again.
You got it?
I don't know. Yeah. See him?
Yeah.
Oh, broke him off. Dang, I just had a feeling he was about to break me off. I just had a feeling.
Tomorrow for sure.
Guys, a lot of our fishing here recently has looked like this. The weather here has been a mix of hot and rainy, so it turns into a lot of driving around and seeing where you can get at. And it's not just the rain where you can like bear the fish in it, it's the like torrential downpour rain. Yeah, this morning I'm very hopeful we're going to a spot that I've kind of been to before. I've been around the area, but we're going to a different pond this morning, and hopefully we can get on a couple big mouth bass. A couple more months and he's legal. A couple more months and he's legal. I gotta wait. All right, guys, we have made it to the pond. I had to drag my kayak a little bit further than I was expecting, but you know, it's all good because we're here now. This water isn't this frog. This frog is kind of like a pumpkin seed color frog, and this water probably isn't the best clarity, but we're gonna try it out because it does have these little kicking tails, and that might give it enough noise for a bass to want to come out and eat it. Oh, he came off. Darn it. He was right there on the chatterbait. Well, that's fish number one. I was looking like up at this house over here. It's a pretty nice house. I was like, oh, I hate to have to climb down this bank right here to come fish. Hey, that's fish number one on the chatterbait. We know there's fish in here. It's a new spot. We can confirm that there are fish. It just got heavy. It didn't like, there wasn't any pull to it. I love chatterbait bites because sometimes the line just gets heavy and that's your indication of a fish versus like a Texas rig or a jig or something like that where you kind of feel the pull of the fish. Just kind of trying to get an idea. This water's super dirty. That frog I figured probably wasn't gonna cut it. Probably have to let the water clear up a little bit. I'm gonna try this chatterbait, and then after this we might hit this bank. I want to skip this one right here. Maybe fish a jig down that one, or fish a jig actually for the rest of the pond. All right, guys. So no bites on the frog. We had one on the chatterbait, but it still seems a little slow. So we're gonna switch it up to the jig, something a little bit slower. Until the sun's starting to come out, and it is hot here. So I mean, it's not super too crazy hot, but I think the jig might be our best option just to go ahead and get a few bites. And once we get a few bites, then we are in the money. If we get 3 bites on this jig, I'm gonna pick up like a big Amazon peacock lure that's a foot long, and I'm just gonna drag out in the middle and try to catch some Amazon peacocks. There has to be like bass back up in between these trees. Like, I refuse to believe that there's not bass back here. Oh. I just got knocked or by a tree or something. I think this jig might have been should have been the start off lure. I have a lot more confidence. Like when you start bumping into structure, I think that might have been one right there. But when you start bumping into structure, like flipping back behind trees or skipping back behind trees, that just boosts your confidence times a billion. It's just which piece of structure is actually a fish. That's the only hard part about it, is determining the difference between a bass and a piece of structure. Sometimes not every fish is going to pull super hard, so it's hard to determine sometimes. Are you setting the hook on a stick, or is it actually a bass? But we do have one bite. We have a fish in the chatterbait. So skirted baits, it was a white chatterbait. This is a lot slower presentation, so the bass should be a little bit happier to eat. There we go. That's not a bad one. That's not a bad one at all. First one on the jig. Let's go ahead and flip him up in there. Put him on my McDonald's, baby. I need to put that on a t-shirt. That kind of sounded cool. I put him on my McDonald's. Yeah, this first one on the jig. Guys, that's what I was telling you in part 1 of this video. So you guys, not super big fish. He's probably about a pound. Popped right out. But that's what I was trying to tell y'all when you start. Like, normally your jig bites are going to be a little bit more quality. This water isn't super hot for the temperature that it's been. It's been like up in the high 90s every day, and Sheesh, you don't know how good this feels to catch a fish on this jig. It's been a minute, but this is colder water, so I'm guessing, I'm not sure what this is fed by. It might honestly be like a spring, well, if it's spring fed, it might be a little bit clearer, but I don't know. I feel like this isn't just like a regular pond because the water's super cold. The water might be like low 70s, 60s, 70s. I really need to get a graph to put on this kayak so I can kind of be able to differentiate. I just butchered that. Differentiate. All right, guys, fish number 1 on the jig. Let's go. Let's try to catch about 100 more. Really know how the fishing is in this pond. I was just told there's a pond here, so I pulled up to it. There wasn't much more instruction other than that. We're at 1 though. We have 1 bite or 2 bites, 1 fish landed. So normally, like when I come to a new spot for the first time, I have a 3 fish goal. And those 3 fish can come on any lures, but I mean, it's nice, you know, it's always a good feeling if you can catch one on top water, on a jig, and then a moving bait, because then you feel like next time you come out, you have a much wider array of lures you can use. Guys, a little tip for you. Eventually, after you fish your lure for a while, it's gonna start to slide and move around on you. And what you do, you just take it off, slide it back on the other way. It'll save you a lot of lures that way too. These plastics can get expensive, especially like if you Texas rig and then you use them for trailers. Like you can almost get to the pack, or you almost get to the point sometimes where you always use the same pack of crawls for no matter how you're fishing. So just being able to take them and reuse them, flip them around, bite the appendages off, and just use what you need, and then be able to use it to the most of your ability, the best of your ability, really can be clutch sometimes. There's a deer down there. What? That was a whole deer crossing the water right there. I think that's the first time I've ever seen a deer out on the water. It was a whole deer. Like I looked and I was like, I know that's not a person. That was a real deer, huh? It's pretty cool. Check that off the bucket list. See deer while fishing. Then I saw him and he saw me, and like we both froze. And then I reached down, I was gonna try to pick up my phone, put him on TikTok. And then he just kind of skedaddled from there. Hopefully you can see him on the camera. I wish you could zoom on these GoPros. That would be the most clutch thing in the world. A GoPro that you could zoom on. GoPro, if you're watching this, a zoom feature would be highly appreciated.
I'm racing the clock, look at him block, watching him.